Begin.
Hello, gorgeous human beings of the Great Leap Masterclass. Welcome back for today's bonus session. Okay, I just want to tell you the testimonials you've posted are like out of this world. Some of the texts you wrote, I'm like, I want to frame this and I like to put this on my wall. That is what I'd like to do. Just the generosity and the depth that you went to describe this event makes me like over the moon. So happy, so happy, so happy that it happened for you, that you got it, that you got the vibes, you got the game. You know, I saw a lot of people saying like, at first I wasn't even going to do this one, you know, or I saw the games and I was like, this is silly, or this is not Melanie's style usually, or I don't think I'm going to do it. And then something happened, and then I said something, and then something happened, and then all of a sudden I'm playing and I love the game. And so I'm really excited that you ended up deciding to play, because I feel like this is life. You know, I've often said, I feel like my courses, my master classes, my masterminds, they're like replicas of the real world. Whatever it is that holds you back in the little thing holds you back in the big thing. You know, it's silly. I don't have time. I can't. Too much on my plate. I don't feel good right now. Nothing this, and then all of a sudden, it's like the minute you make time for it in there, things start to change out there. So thank you for making the time in here. So the vibe of today's call and why I'm so excited about this is I want to bring everything together for you, and I want to give you like a play-by-play of what it is actually that I did to get here. And the reason that I wanted to set up such a powerful context is because I know that if I would have led with this, a lot of people would have just been like, okay, how do I do exactly this? Or, well, I can't do this exactly, so it will never work for me. And that's exactly the opposite of the point of why I'm going to share this with you. You're going to listen, and there's going to be things about this that you're going to say, good point. I like that. I'm going to take that as a cheat code. I'm going to try that on. I like that. And then there's going to be other things you're going to listen to, and you'll be like, that wouldn't work for me, or that feels not right for me. But now I know what I could try, because I can contrast with what you just said. Like, I would never do that, but I would do that. And what's amazing is when you have the wherewithal to know yourself, you don't just go blindly and go do what someone else did just because it worked. What I wanted you to get in the Great Leap is how different we all are. I loved how everyone made their own characters. And in the end, when we look at the characters that were built, they were so different. Everyone went in a different direction. Everybody did a different thing, because it's like, this is who I am. It's not just, I followed the game and I did exactly. I wrote exactly. It's like everyone had a little bit of a difference somewhere, and some were entirely different and some were a little bit different. And so there's things you might say, you know what? No, I want to model this exactly. This would work for me exactly. Great. And other things would be like, I would need to do the absolute opposite of this, but thanks for making me aware of that. So my desire for you today is that you listen with as much of a desire to validate with what I'm saying as to contrast. I don't really mind if you listen to this whole story and say, I would never do one of the things that you just talked about. We're entirely different. I hate it all. But instead, I would do this. You're still winning the game if you learn how to contrast with the kind of success that you want, because ultimately it doesn't really matter how I got here. What matters is I did, and then here's how, and then you can decide if that's what you like or not. And I think there's pieces that you'll take with you, and there's pieces you'll leave behind, and that's perfect. So the first thing I want to start with today is to tell you that most of what we're going to do today is what I like to call identity work. It's not a new term. You've probably heard this a lot before, but I want to go into the depth of what that really means for me, and what I did and how I really did it, because I feel like what was the hardest thing in order to really shift my identity over time was the real constant questioning of, is this real? Am I really changing, or does it just look like I'm changing? And I've worked with a lot of people over time that have said to me, I've done everything right. I've done everything right. My branding looks good. My posts are good. I'm leading with my best self, and it's not working. And then I ask them, does it just look like you've changed, or have you really changed? When you're alone in the darkness of your room at night, do you feel like you've changed? Or do you feel like it looks like you've changed so much that people should have gotten the memo by now? It's like a kick in the gut often when that question comes out. People are like, ah, crud. I think I just thought I'd built a good enough outer appearance that I'd changed. But I feel like I'm constantly having to keep up with myself. So I want to talk to you about what it took and what it continues to take to shift my identity over time in order to become this version of me. Because I will tell you, for all of those who want to actually do something really big, like who on this call has a deep calling inside, like it's something rather big that you want to be doing. There's a pretty big impact on the planet that needs to be done. So when you have that feeling inside, a lot of times there's a real question like, okay, how do I go from here right now to there? How do I get the people to want to listen to me? How do I become known? What do I have to do? What do I have to say? How do I get the following? Where do I start? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? It's just like, it feels almost impossible to imagine from here to the grandness and the greatness and the hugeness that we know we could be. There's like a gap in the middle. So the first thing that's so important to realize is that the version that you are right now will still exist inside of you when you become the leader that you're going to be for your mission, whatever that is. But you won't be exactly the way you are. You'll be this with so many other parts of you that you haven't unlocked yet. And I think my biggest downfall and why it took me longer to get started was because I imagined that one thing would change and then everything would change. And I was looking for that one thing. Can you resonate with that? Like, what's the one thing I need to do? Because there's probably this one thing I need to do. And then once I've done that, then everything will change. And so I really imagined that that's what it would be. So I kept thinking about this one thing. What I hadn't contemplated and what I hadn't ever been shown or what I had never experienced before is that in fact, everything that changes makes everything change. So it's not that one thing changes and then everything changes. It's more like you make one change and then you're different. And then you have to create another change and then you're different again. And then you create another change and you're different again. But you take the whole version of you that's been changed with you every time you go. So to give you like a visual, if I take a recipe and I'm going on the fly, I don't actually have my own recipe. Nobody's taught me this. And I decide I want to make spaghetti sauce. So I start with tomatoes and then I taste it and I'm like, okay, what's missing? So I'm like, okay, everything. So I think I'm going to brown some onions and some garlic in a pan with some oil. I'll get that started and I'll pour the tomato paste inside that after, because this is just bland. So now I've got my onions and my garlic and my oil going, and then I add the sauce to that and I taste it. I no longer have just tomatoes. I no longer have just garlic. I no longer have just onions. I now have this mixture. And I'm taking the mixture somewhere else. I might say, there's still something missing. I think I want to add some oregano. I want to add some spices to this. I want to add stuff to this. Let me add some spices and stuff. Okay. Then I taste it. Still missing something. Now I'm not just talking about the tomatoes are missing something. I'm not just talking about the oil is missing something, or the garlic or the onions or whatever are missing something. The whole mixture is missing something. This is what happens for us. And so if we think to ourselves, I've added the tomatoes, I've added the garlic, I've added the things, it should be good enough by now. What's wrong with it? That's going to be a very different experience of cooking than, you know what this could, you know what could be really good in this? I think I'm going to get some, like, I don't know, sausage and mushroom and peppers going on the side, and I'm going to add that to that and build some flavor. One is this creative, fun thing, and the other one is like, what's wrong with my sauce? Something's missing, something's missing, something's missing. The fact is, when you're building a recipe, you're going to keep tasting and it's going to be like, what else could I put in this that would make this? What's missing? Let me add a little bit of this. Let me add a little bit of this. And then next time you make the recipe, you already know what's good. So you're like, well, now I've made the spaghetti sauce last time and I ended up having 3 different things going because I kept adding stuff. But now what I know is, let me start the sauce right away with the oil, the garlic, the onions. Let me get that simmering. Then let me add the mushrooms and the peppers. Let me add the sausage to that. And then let me get that going. And then let me add, and now by the time we get to adding the tomatoes, it already tastes delicious. I'm not tasting the tomatoes first, looking for what's missing. I'm starting with this much more solid base. Now I'm tasting that. I'm going to say, okay, what's missing from this? What do I want to add today? How do I want to make this different? And so we become more well-versed at our recipes. We become better at making the sauce. We keep adding little things. We keep trying things on, but not because there's something wrong with the sauce, but because we're playing and we're adding to the mix. Our life isn't about the one ingredient that's going to change your life. It's about the fact that every time you add an ingredient, you change the sauce entirely. You've got to adapt to the whole sauce once you've added the ingredient. It's no longer just individual ingredients. You can't take something out. You can't be like, oh, you know what? Never mind. Let's try to get all the garlic out of this sauce. Now that it's been sauteing with onions and oil, and I've already added it to all the tomatoes, let me just take some of that out. Like, you can't do that now. Now you've got to adapt the sauce. And this is what happens in our life. We want to try to take things away. We want to try to go back in time. We want to beat ourselves up for something we put in that we shouldn't have put in. Our job is actually to keep adding and tasting and testing, while understanding that everything we add to the sauce changes the entire sauce. Everything you add to your life changes the entire making of your life. So you are going to become this plus this, and then you'll become that. And then you'll be that plus this, and you'll become that. And then you'll be that plus this, and you'll become that. It won't be that you're this plus this plus this plus this plus this plus this plus this, boom, successful. You're going to change the making of who you are every time you add an ingredient. This is way easier. Way easier, because you get to test every time and go, you know what would be really amazing if I had a little more of this and a little more of this. And when you go at it like a creative genius, like a chef looking to make something that's like work of art, you're gonna have a lot of time, a lot of fun building yourself, tasting, saying, you know what, I love a little more courage, I'd love a little more edge, I'd love a little more art, I'd love a little more business, I'd love a little more family time, let's add a little romance, let's make this fantastic. You know, it would be amazing if I added a little vacation here. And what if we added a little more financial success on top? Ooh, let's grate some financial success on top of that. Oh, that's what was missing. That is delicious. Oh my gosh. But you don't make the entire dish about the financial success, because then you've just got a bowl of Parmesan cheese with a spoon and you're like, you know what this is missing? Everything. So we don't want to do that. We want to sprinkle the final ingredients on top. Like, what's going to make this amazing is if I have the freedom to go where I want to go with these people that I love, with my confidence and my joy and my happiness and my gratitude and my well-being. And this is good. Let's just sprinkle a little bit of magic on top of that. So what I want to bring to your attention is that when I first started, there were parts of my identity that really didn't serve me at all. And when I say the parts of my identity didn't serve me, is that these things really happened in my life, but then I made them who I was. So this is something you can possibly contemplate. There's things that have happened to you in your life, and that is the truth. No one can take that away from you. But you're the one who decides to take that on as a part of your identity. So it's like, there are anchovies in the kitchen, but you decide whether you put them in the sauce. You bought them, they're there, you can even smell them, but you're the one who decides if you put it in the recipe. And so what I had as a recipe of self when I first lost everything, there were certain things that I felt were me. So I was the one kid in my family that couldn't figure out how to get the education my parents wanted us to get. I was the one who couldn't get it. I was the one who kept falling in love with the wrong people. I was the one who couldn't get my financial situation together as a young adult. I was the one that didn't have a really great, exciting future with a good career planned out. I was the one that just didn't have a lot of just future. Like there was just not a lot of hope. Just not a lot of hope. I was just, there was just things about me. I was the one that got picked on in school. That was part of my story. Wasn't very popular. I was the one, this is who I was. Now, it's true that those things happened, but the problem was not that they happened. The problem is I made that the sauce. I said, this is who I am. I'm not good enough. I'll never find a person who really loves me. Boyfriends cheat on me. I couldn't get a good education to save my life. Now there's no hope for my future. And when that's who I am, something happens. My thoughts are completely congruent with that identity. What I think about when I'm alone with myself at night, it's pretty much in alignment with that. How I feel in my life, pretty much in alignment with that. How I behave when I walk into a room as the loser who gets cheated on, has no friends, screwed up in school, was the one kid that didn't succeed, is now bankrupt, living in the front seat of a car. When I walk into a coffee shop, I'm not like, hey, I'm like, I don't have anything to bring. This sauce is funky. Like, I am not proud of what I'm bringing to the potluck. Don't eat this. Like, I'm not offering myself up like, let's talk, let's be friends, let's make money, let's talk business, let's talk about anything. I'm more like, hopefully I learned something, or hopefully no one notices how awkward this is. So I avoided people a lot, to the point where by the time it was time for me to turn my life around, I was completely alone, because I avoided anybody that could ever ask me how I am in life, because I didn't want to be the person who was going to say life is terrible, but there was really nothing else that could have come out of my mouth at that point. So if you can kind of see this like self-fulfilling thing, like what other options are there at this point? It's like ding, 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 ding. I feel crap about myself, and then I don't do anything to fix it because I don't believe I can. And so I feel even more crap about myself, and then I go to bed by myself, and then I'm sad because I'm lonely, and I don't think it's ever going to change. And now I'm thinking about it. I'm sadder than I was even before I thought about it. And I don't want to sleep because then I dream about it, and then I wake up in the morning and I'm sadder than when I went to sleep. And now I'm even sadder this morning because it was a dream and it's still real. And now I'm sad and I'm depressed and now I'm broken, sad, and no way out. What I think, what I feel, how I behave constantly perpetuates the same thing over and over again. And the more I believe this about myself, the more everything that's actually happening to me makes sense. Because of course, the person who couldn't finish high school and is the one kid that's the dud that can't get the education, who has all the bad boyfriends and who gets cheated on and who gets picked on in school, ends up going bankrupt in her car when she's 25 and is a total loser. Of course, that's me. It all makes sense. Of course, because it's who I am, because I should have always known, because how could I have not thought? Because. So what had to start happening is one thing needed to change. I had to give myself an opportunity in one place to have an out. And the hardest thing when it's time to have an out is that there are places that feel like there are permanent identity because there's nothing we can do about them. I don't know if you can relate to that, but like, I can't just, oh, all of a sudden I'm a money magnet. Like, but I'm not. Like, nothing has changed. How am I going to do that? So it was difficult for me for certain things to change because they just felt true. I'd screwed up my education, couldn't fix that. I was genuinely sleeping in the front seat of my car, couldn't fix that. I wasn't making money, couldn't fix that. I couldn't just have a good credit, or like, there's things I couldn't fix. So I had to go in and say, what's what is something, where is somewhere right now, as I sleep in the front seat of my car, that I could work on that would not require any of my past to be involved whatsoever? And the thing that came for me to work on was my relationships with men. What I realized is that I was constantly trying to be in relationships where I was needed. So not loved, respected, admired, needed. And the reason I did this is because my genius brain told me that if I got a man who needed me, he would never leave me, which made it double harder when they cheated and left, because I had banked on a less good person I hoped would never leave, who would then end up cheating and leaving. But I can't blame them now, because I can only imagine what it must feel like for someone to choose you just because you fulfill their need to not be left. Don't know how special you feel, how loved you feel, or how attractive you feel when you figure out that really the only reason you're being chosen is because the person you're with thinks you'll never do better. Sure, that's not a very great dynamic to be on the other side, but I didn't think about that. All I thought about was my comfort and the fact that I would never be left behind, and it was a genius move until it was not. So I started telling myself, okay, right now as it stands, I am alone. And if I were to date someone and it wouldn't work out, I would just be alone again. Clearly, I can handle that. So why don't I go with this like I'm going to be okay no matter what? Revolutionary for me at this point. If this fails, it's not like all of a sudden I'm a failure. Like, I'm already a failure. Been there, done that, sleeping in the t-shirt. So let's just go for it. Let's see what other dynamics there are in relationships. What does it look like to not just fall in love with love? To not just go with the first person that gives me attention and then try to keep it forever? To actually say, let me find out what genuine love, respect, admiration feels on both sides. Let me see what that feels like. And so I noticed on first dates my desire to go in and to say things I shouldn't say. Like, my ex-boyfriend was a blah, blah, blah. The reason it didn't work out is because he cheated and I did everything for him. And blah, blah, blah. Like, how hard it was for me not to say all those things on the first date just to get the, I would never do that to you. Oh, that sentence felt good, even if it was a lie. Lie to me. Lie to me more. Lie to me for 5 whole dates. Because the feeling of someone saying you didn't deserve that and I would do better for you felt like the fantasy I needed, until I realized I didn't need that fantasy. I needed the truth. And so I realized that what I actually needed to do was to stop relating to myself as a person that got cheated on and that accepted a whole kinds of awful things and that needed a new person to come into my life and all of a sudden be the savior. Like, that was not changing my identity at all. So I came into these dates and I said to myself, I would only ever date a person who had the capacity to really love. I don't want the story of the guy who fights with his mom and has never been loved before and is finally looking for a woman who's going to love him right. I don't want that story. I don't want the story of the guy who's never had a solid girlfriend and doesn't know what love feels like and he's 30. I don't want that. I don't want that anymore. I used to, because it felt special, because it felt like, I'll love you, right? We'll be each other's Romeo and Juliet. It'll be perfect. I was like, no, I want a person who loves his mom, who's been in love before, who knows what he's doing, who knows how to respect somebody. And although that will make me probably feel like I've got competition with the ex and it'll make me feel like I've got to up my game, maybe that's exactly what it should feel like. And so I started going on these dates mysterious. Stop talking about me. That was shock. That was a state change. That was shocking. That was like, oh, look at me not talking. This is nice. And so I let them talk and I let them lead and I just saw how I felt. And I gave myself this thing. If I didn't feel good on the date, I just didn't go again. There was no, let's see if the second date's better. It's like, no, if you didn't do it right on the first date, we're done. I started building boundaries and standards. And I started to change how I felt about me on these dates. And within a few dates, I had a new belief system about relationships where I didn't need to go back, way far back into the past to get my evidence. I could base it on the last date and the date before and the date before. And so I started changing my identity because I did not need to tell people about the fact that I was bankrupt on a date. I would go on dating apps, I would go on whatever until someone said, I would like to take you out for coffee. This was also really great for me because I really actually didn't have any money. And so sometimes these dates were like my one meal of the week. So my gratitude was through the freaking roof. I was a great date. And what I would tell myself is this might be the last first date of my life. Every time I went there, I let my expectations be really high. I'm going to let this person feel the genuine care and the presence. I'm going to show up there like this is the most important thing I have to do, because it was. In the most gratitude, and I can tell you, I have never had more people fall in love with me in all of my life than during this period of time. It was like I had to decide if I'm willing to continue this after they've fallen in love and I haven't. And to raise my standards around not just accepting love, just taking the love that was offered to me, but to actually say, I feel it as well. But I had more people saying, I love you. I literally would say, you know, I'm looking to walk into the sunset with the man of my dreams right now. And so I'm not really, until I'm sure, what do I need to do? Like, I'll marry you. We've been on 4 dates. Like, no, we're going to calm down here. It was as if I'd touched something I had never even known existed before. I went from men who didn't want to commit to me after years and years and years, people who were willing to marry me after 4 dates. Like, what the heck is happening? And you know what the difference was? I wasn't trying to prove anything. I didn't need the date. I didn't need the relationship. And I wasn't needing them to fulfill any part of me in the past or change anything for me in the past. Like, I was changing my identity with every date. With every date, I believed I was more worthy. With every date, I believed I'm an incredible person to date. With every date, I realized how funny and fun I was, and how kind I am, and how I care about people. And I started remembering things about my past that were cool about me. And that was weird. I started remembering how I used to ski when I was a little kid. And I started to remember about how I can sing and how I used to be in some of the plays at school. And I started remembering a really great relationship I had with my granddad as a little kid. And I started to remember my brother and my sister much younger in life, fishing for tadpoles and frogs and being silly little kids. And all of a sudden, I started sharing things about my life that were good. And I was like, who the heck is this version of me? I haven't shown up like this in my life ever. But what I knew is that if anyone that I knew in my life were to see me on one of these dates, they would have thought, who's that? Because it was not congruent with who I actually was all the time. It was only congruent with this newfound identity. So what started happening was at night after dates, sometimes I would feel the separation. It would feel like I wish I was who I am on those dates. I don't know if you've ever felt that before. Like, one area of your life, you feel like you've really got it, and the other area of your life, you don't. And so what actually happened then, though, is I had this incredible feeling inside of, but it exists in one place. It was like a breakthrough. Whereas before I felt like it existed nowhere. Now, all of a sudden, it felt like it existed somewhere. So I started saying, what if I tell myself some of these stories? What if when I'm alone with me, I remember some of these stories? I started thinking about some of the things I had done and some of the awards I had won when I was a little kid, and some of the cool things that I knew. Like, I'd been to Cuba 5 times with one of my friends and started learning Spanish. And, you know, I'd been one of the top salespeople before in a sales company that I worked for. And I did this and I did this and I did this and I went there and I traveled here and I did this in my past. I have things that I've done, like, and I started building what was good about me when I was alone with myself. Not just when I was on the dates. I let it bleed out into when I was alone with myself. And so I had been avoiding every phone call that was coming in. I was dodging my friends. I was dodging everybody. Like, I was not picking up the phone because I didn't want to tell anybody how bad things were. And this one night when the phone rang, I picked it up because I was feeling actually solid. I think I may have even forgotten for a moment that I was planning on sleeping on my car that night in the parking lot. in a snowstorm, that I was bankrupt. I've completely forgot that because I'd actually been on a really amazing date. And I was in my mind about some good things about me. And I was feeling different. And so I picked up the phone. And this person on the other side of the phone started telling me about her relationship and things that weren't working. And now I'd been working on my relationship stuff for a little while. And so I just started telling her all the things like, okay, this is what you got to do. I didn't tell her, I don't have the space for this, or you think you've got it bad. Guess what my ex did? And now look at where I am. None of that thought to come out. Instead, it was like, oh. And so I hung up with her, and a couple of days later, she was like, what the heck? First of all, thank you for everything you told me. I feel like it's turned so many things around for me, but also, how did you learn all this stuff? I'm like, well, I've just been working at it for me. And she's like, but I've been working at it. I've learned a lot of things. I've read books. I've never heard it said like that. Like, where did you get that? And so I told her some of the things I was reading and learning. And she's like, I read all that. Where did you get this? And I said, well, it's just the implementation of it, I guess. It's like, I've actually been putting it into practice. And she was like, oh my gosh. And then a little while later, I have a friend that wants to talk to you. How much do you charge? Then I got hit with another identity problem. Can you see how so far these are all identity shifts? It's the identity shift from boyfriends cheat on me, I never find the right guy anyway, to I don't need this to work out. Let me test, let me see how this goes. Let me just see. Worst thing, I'm alone and I'll be fine. To actually pulling parts out of my identity that I hadn't thought about me in a really long time. To realizing the gap. When I'm with people, I feel it. When I'm alone, I don't. I want to fill those gaps when I'm alone. To then the phone rings and I answer the phone in a different identity. To then being presented with being a coach or something, which is, so then all of a sudden now there's another gap though. How the heck am I going to accept anything? I'm sleeping in my car. Do I tell them that? Do I not tell them that? Does it matter? If I helped her, does it matter? So I said, I will, like, I'm the invisible coach. This is my brand, the invisible coach. So she doesn't know who I am. We don't talk about me at all. This is all about her. And if she's okay with that, this is how you would do it. And bank transfer, and I called from an unknown number. She's doing it. Who am I? I'm a person who is the embodiment of my work right now. I'm a person who is literally living by the truth of this. Like, all of a sudden now helping people became a part of my identity. I'm the invisible coach. Oh my gosh, I'm really interesting now. You want to know on dates? So what do? I'm an invisible coach. What's that? Now my identity, I felt so cool. I felt like James Bondette. I was like the happiest person. I was like, I felt cool. I felt mysterious. I was having the time of my life. Yet no one elsewhere knew that I was even going through this. And so if my parents would have called me, I feel like the whole thing would have just crashed and burned, because that would have been a very different conversation. So where are you? But they didn't. So I was safe for an extended period of time. So it took me to start in places where no one knew me. Because where people did know me, I felt like I was always bumping up against, they won't believe it if I say I've changed. They'll say, what are you trying to do? They'll say, what's up with you? They'll say something that'll change the state of what I'm feeling. It won't feel real anymore. And so what I've realized with my clients over time is having spaces, even in the online space like this, you might have found that in the Great Leap, the way you post it is different than the way you post on your own social media. The way you showed up there, that little character you created, those breakthroughs you wrote, those forgivenesses, the things you said no more to, the things you shared, the things you said, that's not really totally who you are everywhere, but you let yourself be there, this kind of person. That's the opening. Then it's like when you're alone in your mind at home, can you start to bridge the gap? The same person you are online at your best when you're like, I freaking deserve this. No more I've made no money in the past. No more I've struggled with this. No more. What am I really claiming? And then when you're alone with yourself, whoop, there's a little gap. You bridge the gap. Then all of a sudden, you're going to try to do it at a coffee shop. You're going to walk in with the exact energy you would be in the Great Leap. You'll walk in like the character you built with an under smile and a strut in your step. Like you're in the process of changing your freaking life. And you're just casually walking in for coffee. And does anyone really know the magic that's brewing underneath you? You're the most interesting person in that coffee shop. And if anyone were to ask you what you're working on these days, like world domination and self-actualization, you know, just normal things. You're so interesting. You're up to something. Underneath you, there's magic happening. You're plugged into something. You're planning on changing the world for the good, and you're making yourself strong enough to be able to do that. And from an outside perspective, like, you can own that. No one knows you. So then you practice walking into the supermarket this way, and you practice going for a walk this way, and getting your nails done in a new place you've never been this way, and getting your hair done in a new place you've never been this way. And this is what I started to do. So before I started doing all this in another place, here's what happens. Because now manifestation is happening. Let me just see, what is the great question? If there was a great question that I missed, tell me. Let's see. Maybe too low. Here, great question. Do you think sometimes you need to take a pause of like your friends when you want to change your identity? So there's personal power and circumstantial power. If you have absolutely no circumstantial power, this means as soon as the circumstances don't work, you're out. The minute something happens, you've lost it. Then sometimes it does help to go at something alone. But that doesn't mean like stop having your friends. It might just mean you're going to go on a coffee date and you're not going to invite your friend. You're going to go alone this time. I don't think you need to cut people off permanently, but I do think you need to have time with yourself. You need to have moments where it's just you and the stranger on the other side of the table or the other side of the counter. It needs to be you and just yourself, so no one else brings out the old identity in you from time to time. Because the beauty and when things really start to change is when you've changed and the people start to notice it, that you know. That's a huge leap. We're not there yet in the story, so let me continue. So what starts to happen, and people talk a lot about manifestation in the sense where, you know, how do you manifest? How do you do it? But the thing is, the concept of manifestation itself is that you don't do it. That's literally what it is. So what that means is you set yourself up in a way that you're the kind of person it happens to. You don't do it. You set yourself up in a way where you're the kind of person it happens to. So you're putting yourself, you know, there's so many things out there. People say, fortune favors the bold. What does that mean? Luck finds the people who set themselves up for luck to find them. So you can't be the one to do it, but you've got to be the one it happens to. This is a contemplative thought, if you ever want one of those over breakfast one morning. Can't be the one that does it, but I have to be the one it happens to. In what context is that? Well, if I want to be proposed to in life, I can't do it, but I've got to be the one it happens to. If I want the promotion at work, I can't really do it, but I've got to be the one it happens to. How do I position myself there? And what I love, Nadia says, you got to play to win. This is basically what it is. You can't guarantee a win, but if you play to win, the win might happen to you. This is what manifestation is. So how does it happen that I get that phone call and that I decide that that night I pick it up in the right energy and that I actually help this person and that this person talks about the fact that I helped her with somebody else who ends up wanting to hire me and who's willing to pay me? What are the odds of that? They're really small, especially based on like who I was a month ago. The odds are like impossible. So I went from impossible to possible in a month. But what did I do? I didn't try to build a coaching business, that's for sure. But what I did is I shifted my identity. I shifted what I believed about myself. I put myself in situations where I noticed how I'd want to bring back my victim mentality and make myself more of who I had been instead of choosing a new path. I felt good about me. I thought good thoughts about me. I spoke to people who only valued me. I let people go that didn't value me. I had conversations that lit me up. I walked away from conversations that didn't light me up. I felt gratitude. I manifested it. I was in the process of building the energy around myself that I was the kind of person that things like this would happen to. So eventually I get another phone call from a friend I've lost touch with for years. She used to work in the company that I'm struggling to make ends meet now. And she says, are you willing to come to Toronto? Because we've got some products that are new and we need to teach them to French Canadians. And you're the one that speaks both languages, as you know, so you could learn it in French, or you'll learn it in English and then you'll write the script and do it in French. Perfect. So I'm like, how's it going to work logistically? We pay for your gas, we pay for your accommodation, and you get a per diem for food. Hallelujah. I've just manifested the Holy Grail. How does this even happen? I'm packing my stuff. I'm leaving tonight. So decide to mosey on down to Toronto, where they pay for my gas and my food and all the things. I'm like singing on my way to Toronto. I can't believe how great this is. And we're a few moments out of Toronto because I'm going up with another girl. And this boss, a friend of mine, calls me and says, by the way, I just want to warn you before you get here, we're now 15 minutes away, that the person that is going to be training you is Kevin Scott. Now, I had met Kevin before, and I don't like Kevin. And I don't like Kevin because I met him at a time in my life. He was 33, I was 22. The age gap and the maturity gap is through the roof. He was the manager of all of Canada. I was extremely demanding, trying to help my parents through a rough patch. Like, it was not good. And I remember I was like pushing him to give me certain things, certain stores, certain products, because I knew I could make more money doing that. I just seemed like a spoiled brat to him. He didn't know how much I had on my shoulders. And he once asked me, what do you even do with your money? You're just a kid or something like that. And I was like, how dare you? You know nothing, old man. You know nothing. So I hated him. So to the point, and she knew this, to the point where when I was, she waited until I was so close to Toronto that it wouldn't make sense to turn back before she told me he would be the one. And I was so mad. And I had anxiety because what was worse than that is she says to me, he's also going to be staying in the paid accommodation where you're staying. So we don't just work together, we live together. No wonder you waited till I was 15 minutes out of town. So I get there, I park the car, and I'm like just seething. And the thing is, within 5 seconds, I'm right back to my old identity. The victim mentality of being screwed in this company, the victim mentality of this man who's been a sore in my side for so long, the victim mentality of being undermined because I know how he's going to treat me. And I know he's going to talk to me like I'm this and that. How am I going to hold myself together? And I just finally felt myself coming back to normal. And now this is going to happen to me. And I walked up to the door and I put my hand on the doorknob, and something in my head said, don't do it. Don't be the person that you know. Even if they know you in here, don't. You know better. And I just chose it. It was one split second. It was like this. I opened the door and I just very kindly said, hi, walked up to Kevin, gave him 2 kisses, said, hi, Kevin, got all my stuff. He was like, hi, Melanie. I could tell in his voice. He was like, what's the catch? He printed me a parking pass for my car. I was like, this is nice. And I went to bed. The next day we went to work. I was very quiet, paid attention, listened, was a good student, very much in my receiving feminine, not trying to prove myself, not trying to be anything, just let him do his job, listened, was agreeable, did the things I needed to do until he started to sell and was bombing miserably. And so I'm watching him and I'm like, I want to tell him how to do it. But also, like, I know that that is not a good idea because of the dynamics. But also, like, I really want to do it. So what do I do? So I watch him bomb a few times. And then I'm like, I have a tip for you if you would like it. And the dynamic changed like this. He was like, you're going to teach me how to sell a product you've never sold before? And I was like, yes. I just noticed something in your selling. And I feel like if I tell you, it's going to be great. He was like, okay, go. So I told him, and then he did it, and then everybody bought. So he was like, So now we've got this little like cheeky thing going on. The energy's changing. And so now I'm giving him tips and he's showing me how to do the thing, and the energy is completely changing. But my belief about me is that I'm good with men. My belief about me is I'm good with people. My belief about me is I care about people and I'm a good person. My belief about me is I've changed. And that starts to bleed into Kevin's belief about me very fast. Within 3 days, we were making out on the couch. And I had butterflies galore. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy, there's something about this person. He just had everything that I wanted, yet he was nothing like what I wanted. Like he just was so chill and happy. Like it was easy for us to laugh. And he was natural. He didn't try to prove, he didn't try to impress. People gravitate towards him. He was polite. He opened the door for people. He did he just did what he needed to do. He was a gentleman. He was kind. He was funny. He had personality and charisma and all these things. And I was just like, really like this person. But I'm still in the game of dating. And I shared that with him. And at first, we kind of bonded over that. It was kind of weird. I'd travel back and forth between Toronto and Montreal, and I'd tell him stories. He'd be like, okay, did you have any, terrible dates? And I was like, Kevin, you're going to freak out. Listen to this. What happened? And he'd listen. He's like, this is ridiculous. I'm telling him all my stories. And eventually we kind of really clicked. Something happened and I didn't want to tell him my stories anymore. And he didn't really want to ask about them anymore. I felt the dynamic change. And then I started being able to sell again. And more clients started to find me. And now I felt like I could help people with so many things. I reconnected with Emmanuel, who we hadn't been friends for years. All of a sudden, I had a friend. We were going out. We were getting our nails done. We were doing things. I had magnetism. Things were happening to me. I had stories. It was amazing. And I was far from home for a while. And when I went back home after a while, there was a different dynamic in my family. I introduced Kevin, and it was so different. I remember sitting on the balcony with my parents and Kevin, and I just felt like a different person. I felt confident. I had never, all of my life, I would have told you, I'm not the funny one. My brother is the funny one. That night, I told jokes. My family laughed. Kevin was laughing. They were laughing. I'm funny. My identity just changed. They were impressed with who this guy was. I brought home an incredible person. I don't bring back guys that don't respect me and that's not true anymore. It's not who I am. I've got stories. There's things that have happened in my life. I've got something to say. And there's a way that I tell stories. People are listening to me. My family is listening to me. I feel like I belong in my family. Like, what the freaking hell is happening? My identity is changing. It's shifting every second. Everything is changing. Everything is changing. And more people that I'm meeting for one time are connecting with me. How do I stay connected to you? Let's stay connected. Let's stay connected. Let's stay connected. And so very shortly after that, I started actually finding clients in person. And then it was like finding the courage to actually speak about what I do and own my craft. My identity changed, my identity changed, my identity changed, my identity changed. Then I had to figure out how to use social media because now I have this great personality, figured out how to tell stories. But if you looked at my social media, it was like, wah, wah. So I had to figure out how to become good at social media. But you see the difference between I have to learn social media and I have to become good at social media? Everything stopped being about something I had to get and it became about someone I needed to be. I am an excellent marketer. I am brilliant at social media. I'm a great storyteller. I have charisma and personality. I'm magnetic. I'm good with men. I'm great with my friends. My identity has changed. I am confident. I am. And every little piece I added to the sauce changed the sauce. This was not tomatoes with garlic and this and this. It was the best spaghetti sauce. It was an identity shift. It wasn't just a bunch of ingredients I was trying on to try to do something. It was who I was, who I am, as I built this more and more and more and more. And then the craziest thing happened. People started knowing me only based on who I had recreated myself to be. And so I started hearing people introduce me to other people, and the introduction I would get was like, this woman is absolutely phenomenal. She has helped this person. She helped my sister-in-law. She is the reason that this person's business did this. She walked into this dentist office and within this much time, this and this and this happened. This woman is this. This woman is this. This woman expanded this person's sales team. This woman helped this couple get back together. This person helped my marriage. Because of her, we didn't get separated. This woman is the reason my daughter and I talk. This woman is this. This woman is me. I heard people talk about me. This woman is so funny. This girl's hilarious. This person's brand is insane. This person is so successful. She's done this and she's built this. And all of a sudden, I was hearing people talk about me in a way that I couldn't have ever dreamed of. This is me they're talking about. And it just kept getting better. After every program, after everything, Alpha Femme, when Alpha Femme came through for me, Alpha Femme, that was an identity shift. I remember when I was like, okay, this is such a big name, it's such a big brand. I need to up my game even more. If I'm going to be the leader of Alpha Femme, like, what more is there that I am to be? I have friends all over the world. I've traveled all over the world. I walk into certain hotels, they know who I am. I've built connections. Like, there were things I just never thought I would be. And there's things I wanted to have as part of my identity. So this is another piece I think is really important. When you start to build your identity, you're going to realize there's stuff you want to try on that might not last forever. Some stuff will last forever. I never put it in the way for myself, like I would always have to be something that I was doing. So if there's another thing, I did not get the luxury thing at all. Didn't get it. My sister always got it. The fashion, the luxury, she always got it. She always could see. She always knew. Even as a little kid, she loved the brands. I did not care about that stuff. I didn't get it. I didn't see it. I didn't feel it. I just didn't understand it. And I always said, like, I'm just not that kind of person. What it took was for me to actually understand what those kind of people are. The ones with the luxury brands, the one that create the luxury brands. When I really started looking into it and I'm like, what is it that it is really? Is that these are companies that started with a dream and high standards and wanted to be iconic and wanted to make history, like Chanel, that said, I want to do something and source the best designers, the best ingredients, the best things, and said, I'm going to build a fashion brand. I'm going to build something, a scent, a little black dress, a something that'll make history. Christian Dior, Yves Saint Laurent, people who actually made an impact on the world with their art. And I'm mad at it because of a price tag. I'm mad at it because I think it makes me superficial to buy it. It would make me superficial to buy it if I were only buying it because I thought it would make me look something. So I never got it. What it took me for me to get it, I was in Hawaii in 2020. So last leap year. I'm in the elevator and I'm looking around at everybody, and everything in this hotel where I was pristine, stunning, beautiful. The flower arrangements, all the people are dressed in cream colors and whites and greens and yellows, and like everyone looks like I'm in a movie. And I'm in the elevator going up to my room, and I noticed that people in the elevator are looking at my feet. And so I look down and I look at all the shoes, and it's like Hermes shoes, Fendi shoes, gold rims, beautiful cream colors, and I am wearing Skechers sneakers, old decrepited Skechers sneakers. Now, there's nothing wrong with a Skechers sneakers, but it kind of sucks that I've just spent about half an hour in awe of the pristine care everyone has taken to be such a beautiful part of this environment, and I stick out like a sore thumb. For everyone else, they're looking at the beauty of the entire hotel, and then there's me. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if they'd be like, excuse me, miss, do you mind moving out of my shot so you don't wreck it? I'm trying to show people that this is a classy establishment and you're wrecking my point. Like, it's okay to dress however we want to dress, but if I'm going to choose the most beautiful hotel and feel gratitude and awe for everyone else who's made an effort to make this a more beautiful place, and I don't participate, and I had this breakthrough. When you become the kind of person who puts themselves in spaces like that, you become part of the furniture. You become part of what makes it beautiful. You imagine yourself one day becoming successful. You're on a boat in Monaco. What color is what you're wearing? If you imagine yourself on a sailboat or at the marina in Monaco and everybody there is pristinely dressed, what color is the clothing that you're wearing? What's the first thought you have in your mind? White, bright pink, white, white, cream, white, black, cream, yellow, cream, tan, white, navy blue, scarlet, red. So we're looking at either like va-va-voom red, we're looking at like sophisticated like coral, rose, yellow, or we're looking at like, you know, white. You imagine yourself part of the decor. You're able to see florals, pink. You can see yourself, gold, champagne, diamond. You see something. I never thought of that. Yet when you're there and everyone is wearing the most beautiful colors and they're all dressed to the nines on their yachts and you show up with a pair of Skechers because you're just happy you get to go, what does everyone else get to see? And so that's when I got luxury for myself. Who I am is part of the beauty. It was an identity shift. Who I am is part of the beauty I choose. I am in this hotel. I am at this restaurant. I am in this lobby. I am on this boat. I am on this plane. I am here. I am here where everyone is with me, where I appreciate the beauty and they appreciate the beauty. I am a part of it. And so I started looking at my life so differently, like, what's my contribution to this space? And I fell in love with art and fashion and jewelry and really wanted to learn all about it. Kevin and I went to Paris and we spent time and really learned about Christian Dior, all the story behind it. We visited the whole museum. We went and we really read about it. We read about fashion and art and literature and just went into this identity in Paris. Like every store knew us. The Georges V Hotel in Paris, when we left, they formed a queue outside and they waved goodbye with tears in their eyes, like, we will miss you. We made an impact on one of the most beautiful hotels in Paris. Our driver said, I've had prince and princesses stay at this hotel. I've never seen a goodbye like this. This says a lot about who you guys are. We made an imprint. We lived the way you would wish to live, a piece of your identity. But that's a part of me. I also have a barefoot boho part of me that lets the rain dry in her hair. And that part of me matters just as much. And so I realized something even more important along the way with identity work. You don't change your identity. You add identities until you become the most epic, eclectic collection of ways of being that there is no one like you on the planet. People are trying to find the way to be unique. What's the one identity that makes me unique? What makes you unique are all the identities you choose, all put together in who you are. There is a part of me that dresses in cream colors and gets sat at the front of L'Avenue Restaurant Cafe and sips cappuccinos with Kevin while we contemplate art and literature and get the fast pass into all the designer stores and get first glance at all the things that most people don't even understand. Me having been one of the most people who wouldn't have understood not long ago. I break all the rules. I walk into Hermès and buy a Birkin in 5 seconds and people don't understand because I bypass all the rules, but it's an energy thing. I can't explain how it happened either. It just did. I get to sit at the table where the celebrities sit when nobody gets to sit at the table where the celebrities sit after I've been to a restaurant twice and they fall in love with me and they let me sit there. I have that identity, but I don't want to always have that identity. Eventually, I want to sit in my PJs and play Catan with my best friends. And I want the story that Vanessa has just spent 2 hours making pasta and Emmanuel wants to know if we should order pizza at the same time. And Vanessa's like, well, we've got everything for the pasta. And then Emmanuel goes in the bathroom and orders pizza. And then we have both. And I laugh. I want to be those people. I want to be in a tiny little beach town with my family where my mom used to go with my dad when they were pregnant with me. And now we have so many memories from there. And the beach houses are completely decrepit and we could go anywhere in the world, but we go there to make memories as a family and it's a mess and it's amazing all at the same time. I want to do that. I want to walk back in my own footsteps in Hawaii and feel like my entire life has changed. And I want to fall to my knees in gratitude for the woman I've become. I want to contemplate writing a book in a hammock overlooking the water one day, thinking of the woman I've become. I want to dress in white on a yacht in Saint-Tropez, and I want to wear Kevin's sweatshirt on the pontoon, drinking, I was going to say drinking beer, but who am I kidding? I don't drink beer. But let's say I have a sip of beer because I'm in the moment on the pontoon. I want to be everything. I want to be recognized and honored in a Michelin star restaurant. I want to understand how to eat with the cutlery, and I want to know exactly which wines to choose, and I want to know what I'm talking about. I want to wear the right outfit wherever I am, and I want to have it. And I also want to be able to just chill and relax and be. And so this is what I realized. What I want is a life where I have so many different seasons and stories and identities that it's as if I've had all these different levels of the game. Like this is the level where I was, you know, head to toe in luxury and literally people like, who is that? You know, walking off a helicopter and people are crowding up going, who is that? And I'm like, you'll never know because who am I? I'm Melanie Ann Layer from the Instagram. Like I'm nobody, but I'm everybody all at the same time. Like, who am I? I want those moments. And I also want the moments where no one knows who I am and I'm just relaxed doing what I want to do. And I found that the secret to life, really, the key to life for me has not been to find what my one identity is, where I would feel good enough. It would be more about having every part of me I've ever dreamed to be come true and live that at its possible best. I don't want to feel like I've got to keep up with the Joneses forever and always have the top fashion for the rest of my life. That feels like pressure. But if I want a year of my life where I have absolutely everything every designer brand has ever made and everyone knows me, cool, yeah, let me have a year of that. I may not want to live underground with no Wi-Fi and eating the fruits from the trees that are around me forever, but maybe for a few months I might want to do that. You know, I might not want to do the things I want forever, but they become a part of the sauce. And they become part of the stories I tell. And they become part of who I am and part of my humor and part of my story and part of my life. And that's what makes me so interesting, is that I'm all of it. And it makes me able to connect with so many different kinds of people. And it makes me able to respect so many different kinds of people. And it makes me able to have conversations with everybody. I can sit with someone who talks to me about, road tripping. And, I'll be like, oh my gosh, my brother and I road tripped through Iceland. We were sleeping in a Spark car, on the edges of frozen waterfalls. Like, I know exactly this feeling and I love it. And then I'll sit with people who talk about fashion and I'll tell them everything I know about literature and art and design and have the time of my life doing that. And then I'll talk to people who love food and we'll talk about, the food preparations and incredible restaurants and Michelin star restaurants. And then I'll speak to people who love jewels and jewelry and we'll talk about, and I'll be interested in all of it. And I'll care about everyone and I'll be present for all conversations. I'm everything. There's nothing I don't know. There's nothing I don't care about. There's nothing I can't handle. There's no place I don't belong. I am. And that is what I keep building now. There is no separation between me and anyone. I'll always find a point in common, something that I can listen to and care about and love and be present with all of my heart. There's always something I can give support with. That is part of who I am. It is so much easier to build your identity this way. Instead of trying to find the one right thing, trying to be the one right thing, how the freaking heck are we supposed to choose that? And then the fear of what if I mess up and I went down a path that's wrong for a long time. But I realize now all my paths were right. Even the part of me that slept in my car. I could sit with a person who's been through hell and listen and not think I know better. I don't turn my nose up to anything. No one doesn't deserve my attention or my care. There's no one that goes above my head or below me. I stand shoulder to shoulder with everyone. And my life just works that way. Everything is possible. Everyone can be a friend. There's space for everyone. The table I've built goes across seasons, goes across financial situations, goes across tastes and styles. Like, everyone can sit. I don't worry if I belong or not. There'll always be something. This is what identity work will really do for you. Not to try to figure out who you are, to figure out all of the versions that you are. That is a much grander life. There is no one person you are. I'm telling you, if I fly you out to Hawaii with me today, we will discover a part of you that you have not met yet. And then if we leave here and we just scoot over to Paris together and you spend a week with me there, I will help you crack open a part of you that you've never met there. And if I take you somewhere, if I take you to freaking Mozambique or something, somewhere you've never been, we'll go there. You'll find someone you never knew there as well. If you open your heart, there is a you in every single piece of every single person on this planet. Not just every place, but every person. We hold keys to each other. I believe that. And so I stopped trying to figure out where I belong. I just decided I do. And if there's no point in connection, if there's no connection point of why I belong, then that means I've got something to learn, something to develop. So that's my time to be quiet, ask questions, and learn something new. It's an opportunity to go somewhere and develop another part of me. Can you imagine what kind of life you would be living from this point forward if that became your focus, rather than trying to figure out the one thing you should have been all along, or the one thing that's going to make you good enough? Let's see. How do you deal with people who are angry or grumpy at you? I can't imagine you ignoring them. How do you integrate those monsters? So the fact is, I've been through different phases of this. And the way we handle the monsters, the villains, the people that don't like us, is also part of our identity. And so I can tell you that there are different versions of me that handle things in different ways. You know, I have been the victim, beyond the victim of things like this, where I've felt like no matter how much I give, it will never be enough. No matter what, I'm never enough and I've always felt this. And there's a victim part of me I can tap into if I want to. There's an angry part of me that feels misunderstood and that feels bullied, like the little kid I was, that wants to say no more. You don't get to do this to me now. I'm a grown woman. I won't go hide in the bathroom, and I won't doubt myself because of you. I hate you. No, you can't do this to me. You can't do this to me. There's a part of me that exists. It's like that. But there's also a part of me that thinks, and this is the one that I choose the most often, if a person doesn't like me, it's because they only see me as one part of who I am and they don't like that part. That feels more true. They don't like the part of me that's really loud about money. And they found me while I was talking about money. They don't like the part of me that has tons of conviction and asks people to freaking rise and invites people with all of my confidence to come work with me. They don't like that part. They don't like the part of me that flaunts my relationship and how happy I am. That bugs them. They don't like that. They don't like the fact that I went from something difficult to something fantastic and I talk about it like anybody could do it. They don't like that. They don't feel like I should do that. They don't like that part of me. They don't like when I wear my big brimmed hats and my fancy jewelry. They don't like it when I dress like that. They don't like it when I do all my makeup up and I look like I care about me and I think I'm all that. They don't like that. Just that, but that's all that I am to them in that one moment. They don't like when I do the big balloon celebrations. It feels superficial. It doesn't feel real. It feels like I only care about the certain things. They don't like that part of me. They don't like the perfect aesthetic of my Instagram. They think it's just not real and it's not possible to be just that. They don't like that I make these big master classes and that I ask people to share and my name shows up everywhere. They roll their eyes like, everyone to shut up about Melanie and Lair already. They don't like that part of me, but they don't know all of me. They just know that one part that they don't like. And so in that moment where I bring myself back to the truth, I could say, could I isolate any person on the planet for the one thing I don't like about them? I sure could. But I've learned not to do that. And it's taken me a while to be the kind of person who doesn't do that. So can I have compassion for people? Yes. So it's not that I ignore them. It's more so that I understand that there are parts of me that people don't like. And I'm not willing to not be that part of me. I am not willing to compromise any part of my identity for validation because I am all of it. And the closest I've ever been to being me is allowing every single part of me, whether you like it or not. Because I know if ever one day I didn't like that part anymore, I would let it go. I would let a part of me go if I felt complete with it, but I will not let a part of me go because you feel complete with it. I would add a part of me if I felt the desire to have that part of me, but I would not add a part of me because you feel I should have it. And I trust that if I'm meant to have something or to let something go over time in my life, I will. And the goal is that I'm all of it anyway. So I might end up being all of it, just not today. And so give us a decade. Maybe you'll like me then or not, but it's okay. And so I found that as I've spent more time focusing on the people who actually really enjoy my presence, I've done the greatest things. And people are allowed to not like me. What does it mean? They don't enjoy themselves in my presence. They don't enjoy being with me. They don't think I'm funny. They don't think, so what? So what? I don't need everybody to like me. I get to really actually build this and invite everyone and say, if you like it, come. And if you don't like it, don't even worry about it. And then my life is lighter and I get more done. But if you can take this one thing away from this class today, from this bonus call today, don't look at people like there's only one thing about them, which is the one thing you're looking at. There's a lot more to them than the one thing you're looking at. You might not like their profession, but you might find out they're a really great mom or an amazing cook or a hilarious storyteller. You might not like the way someone speaks, but you might find out that you actually love their energy when you sit with them and you contemplate life about something else. But when they're trying and they're talking, you don't like them that much. But when they're in the silence of themselves and you just sit with them, you're like, wow, you're a beautiful person. Or when you see them with their partner, you're like, you model love in a beautiful way. Everyone can look at someone and find something they don't like. It takes a special kind of somebody to look for what's beautiful in people and to say, I believe you're multiple things and I'm going to look for something a little bit more than what I see firsthand. You're not always going to manage to do that because you're not perfect. And you're all kinds of things in your identity, tiny little jerk included. You've got a little bitch in there. You try to keep her at bay, but she sometimes just wants to come out and give her opinion about stuff. And it's like, it's okay. You've got a sassy person. You've got an angry person. Like you've got all these things, but instead of trying to fix the parts, add more parts. I didn't spend my life trying to fix what I was or who I had been that wasn't enough. What I did is I added a compassionate person. I added a wise person. I added a better spoken person. I added a patient person. I added parts to my identity. And I think a lot of us waste a lot of our life trying to fix the parts that are never going away. Like that's not the goal. Let that part be there. Just add so much more options to your Rolodex that when you usually only had little bitch on you just had her. She was your only thing. Now you have wise soul, empathetic human, kind, caring person, and humorous person. And you're like, huh, I have some options. Which one do I want to be? And you may still select to play with your bitch character in that moment, but that will be a choice. It won't be the only thing you've got. And so there's things about you that you might not love, but it's because you're out of options. You've only got your happy person and your angry person. You've only got your overgiving person and the one who's had enough. What if we added more? What if we also added your magnetic person, your hilarious person, your adventurous person? And then you could choose different parts of you to play the rest of the game of your life. And then it feels like a journey of building the most incredible sauce instead of wondering what's wrong with your tomatoes. Because your tomatoes are great. It's just, if you add a bunch of things, it starts to be out of this world extraordinary. Like Michelin star tomato sauce where people would fly across the world to taste it because you're that special. But it's not because you did one thing, it's because you did everything. And that might feel like a tall order, but I promise you it's easier to do everything and eventually become extraordinary than spend the rest of your life trying to find the one thing you're supposed to do right. So my life's about building. Every conversation, every program, every masterclass, every city, every country, every restaurant, every conversation, every piece of art, every designer, every hotel, every single thing I do adds to who I am because I'm the person who's been there. And I'm the person who's eaten there. And I'm the person who spoke to that person. And I exist not just in my own mind, but I exist in the mind of so many people. And different people will say different things about me. You'll meet a person, you know, so, oh my gosh, she is so trendy. This person is the most stylish person I know. And then you'll speak to somebody else and they'll say, this person has such extraordinary taste in wine. We once had an entire night conversation all about wine. She knows wine so well. And then someone else will say, this person has traveled to all my dream places, literally. And then someone else will say, this is the best photographer. And then someone else will say, this is my mentor. And someone else will say, this is my daughter. And someone else will say, this is my best friend. And someone else will say, this is my fiance. and they would all be right. And if they explained to the other person who I was, and we're like, that's who she is. That's not who she is. She's this. I'm also that. I'm all of it. And then I don't have to spend so much time wondering what the right thing is. It's all right. So at the beginning of this masterclass, I asked you to create a character. And you created one based on who you are. But the thing that's the most extraordinary is that you probably looked at other people's characters and thought, I wish mine looked a little more like that, or I wish mine looked a little more like that, or I wish I would have done that. And you know what the craziest thing is? You felt that because you also have that character inside of you. Can you imagine, instead of showing up in spaces like this, wondering if you're good enough, wondering if you belong, wonder if your character matters enough, if you actually saw the opportunity that you're in everyone's character, and what an extraordinary ride it's going to be to find yourself and all the things you get to become through other people's realizations, what you get to pick up in validation with or contrast with, the things you get to learn, the things you've never thought about, the places you'll see, the people you'll know, and who you get to become in spaces like this, where you're not basing it based on who your sister thinks you are or your childhood friend thinks you are. You know, I share this with my clients a lot, and it's a little sassy, but for a lot of us, the day we really break the mold is the day we separate from the identity of the parent of the opposite sex. Like, you know, if you're a lady in here, there are things your daddy should not know about you at all. There are things your dad should not ever even contemplate that you are, or that you do, or that you like. None of that, ever. That's a really fun part of your identity that you maybe have not let yourself dive into yet. Something happens when you become a big part of your identity is a part that daddy doesn't know. You're not the good girl anymore. You're a woman. You're a magnetic, powerful, extraordinary, sexy, sensual, magic on legs woman. Your powers are endless. There is something about that identity, but you've got to be willing to not be the one identity that includes the good girl, that includes your dad's approval. And for a lot of us, that is like the main identity. And so you're stuck with this good girl paradigm. You're a full-grown woman and you're still trying to behave. We get to be that as well, but what about this other part? For the men in here, it's like there is a part where you love your mom with all of your might, but there are things about you she should not know. The things that you do and the things that you like, she should not know these things. But if you always need to be the good boy and you always need to do the right things, there's a part of you that never actually gets to come out. And so we tend to grow up without ever putting those identities down, because we think, yes, you just wait, because then I return. I'm back. Okay, my apologies for that. So, as we were saying, let's see, where am I? We missed you. Oh, hi. Yes, I'm sure this must have been rather dull without anybody saying anything. I'm back. Okay, we're talking about sex. Okay, so here's the thing. We've got to eventually put some of these identities down, because if not, it feels like everything is all smushed together. And so when everything is smushed together, you get confused about who you are. And that only makes sense, because I want you to just consider this. You're supposed to be this incredible parent to your children, but you're supposed to be a sex kitten in the bedroom, and you're supposed to be the most understanding, compassionate partner. And you're also supposed to be this like kind, loving child to your parents. And you're also supposed to be a respectful citizen, and you're supposed to be a badass in business, and you're supposed to be a boss with your money, and you're supposed to be. And then what happens if everyone that knows you all ends up in the same room and is asking you questions all at the same time about all of those identities? You would be overwhelmed. You'd be trying to tell someone off at work while telling your child to be nice. And you'd be trying to get an upper hand on a business deal while telling your other kid to play fair. And you'd be talking dirty to your partner while trying to look like a good girl to the whole thing would not work. And so we tried to isolate the identities in circumstance, but not in actual real time. You don't realize like you're supposed to work on all these parts of you separately. They're all valid. They all deserve your attention. You get to have so many versions of you. And so if you don't separate them, if they never separate, then they're always all stuck together, which means you can never fully be expressed in your sexuality and super connected to your parents at the same time. You can't be all about your kids and also put yourself first at the same time. You can't, so you're just stuck. So you just kind of be a little bit of who you are and try to please everybody and try to do your best to keep all the things happening without falling apart, when in fact, the falling apart is when it all begins. To come and meet all the parts of you. To say, let me find out who I am when there's no one else in the room. What do I even want to think about? What do I want to talk about? What do I care about? Who am I with these people in that place? Who am I in this context, in this mood? Who am I today, in this moment? And can I fall in love with every version of me I choose to be along the way? And can that become the collection of me? The collection of who I am, all the parts. Because you'll notice you're in a relationship for X amount of time and it feels like you know yourself so well. And then all of a sudden you get divorced and within a few weeks you feel like an entirely different person. And then all of a sudden you meet a new partner and then you're an entirely different person. And that's just you being with a person, without a person, and with a new person. That's just like one trio of differences in your life. But you are so many versions of you. You're the whole game. You wrote the code, which means you wrote every character. You get to choose which character you play with in certain situations. The way the video game is actually made is each character has different traits. One can fly, one can jump, one can shrink and grow, one can do this, one can do that. So depending on how you're playing this level, you change characters. Now, there's something about saying like, if I'm always changing characters, then who am I really? All of them. But how can I be all of them? You're all of them, whether you choose to be all of them or not. It's just, it tastes way better to have a 7-course meal than for me to mix your caviar with your salad and your chicken and your ice cream all in one bowl and make you eat it all at once. But that's what we've been doing. We put all of our identities in the same bowl and we're going, this tastes weird. Do you guys feel this tastes weird? These are all delicious ingredients. It should work, but somehow this tastes real weird. Why do I feel weird? Why do I feel stuck? I feel like I've got a piece of this. This person has this. I have this. How come it doesn't work? This doesn't work for me. This person has this. I have this. How come this doesn't work? Yes, but you've put yours all together in a mushy little bowl of smoke. And you're eating the whole thing and it tastes weird. And you're looking at this one person who's got this like perfectly cut piece of thing. And it's the only thing on the plate and it looks so fancy and they're eating it and you're there with your bowl of schmuck and the whole thing feels weird. And you're like, what? I have that in my bowl of mush. And why does that person make it look so delicious while mine is weird? Because mine's all squished together. And that person's intentional about every place that they are. You know, there's a version of me that's a social media version of me, and I nail it. But that's not the same version of me as the mysterious version of me that's not even allowed to take pictures at some of the fancy events I go to. There's a version of me that is so freaking stylish. And there's a version of me that looks like 1989 when no one's watching and no one owns a camera. Like, there are different versions of me. And if I try to put them all together, then I'm mush. But if I separate them, I have a risk to take. And the risk that I have to take is that people will see a part of me and that they think that's all I am. That's the thing we need to make peace with. And so the real art is in saying, I will allow myself to be all of me, and I will be different things in different ways. And some people will meet me on one day and will think I'm this because they didn't have the wherewithal to wait and see everything that I was. But I'm not going to put all of my identities in a bowl and eat schmuck for the rest of my life just so that you can see that I'm all of me, because I am all of me. And if you are patient and capable enough to find out about all that I am, you're in for a treat, because I am amazing. I'm funny. I'm compassionate. I'm sassy. I'm all of it. But if you chose me on the one day I was being a bitch and you've decided you don't love me, that's a waste for all of us, because that was one day and I have so many other parts of me. If you saw me on the one day I was being shishi and fancy and you don't like me on that day, you missed out. And so one of my favorite sentences for myself is, I am the one, or the one who got away. And what this really means is, I am the one. I have it all. I'm every identity. And if you're willing to meet me at every identity, you will see that I'm all of it. All the things you wish I was, I'm probably those things. I'm just also all the things you don't want me to be. And if that's not enough for you, that's not okay for you, and you leave, it will be your loss. I will either be the person that helps you change your life, laugh harder, be happy, love more, be the greatest version of you, or I'll be the one who almost did. And that's how I've chosen to live my life. I give all that I am to being the best of me. I give time and energy to all of my identities. They all matter to me. I understand you may not love them all. And if you're willing to discount me or cut me out because of one part of me, then I'll be the one who got away, because I have a lot to offer. Can you imagine how you would walk through your life knowing I am the one, or I'm the one who got away? Instead of running after people trying to tell them, I'm all so nice, I'm all so successful. You didn't stay long enough to find out I'm sexy. Wait, don't go. There's another part of me. Please, I should have mushed it all in the bowl so you could have seen. Let them go. They might circle back later. They might see a different angle of you later and go, huh, how's this you? I didn't know you were this. You left too soon. Let people find out all that you are, but don't mush everything that you are in a bowl just to make sure they don't leave or that they don't get it. The game doesn't work if there's only one kind of player. Can you imagine a video game? There's only one character and it can do everything. What's the point of the game? Which character are you? I'm Lenny. How about you? I'm also Lenny. Oh yeah? How come? It's the only player in the game. Huh, cool. Well, this is boring. Look what my character can do. Yeah, mine can do the same. Look what my character can do. Yeah, my character can do it too. Look what my character can do. Yeah, my character can also do that. Well, we're having a great time. Let's actually diversify. You've got different things you bring to the table. Sometimes I'm funny. Sometimes I'm sassy. Sometimes I'm sexy. Sometimes I'm cute. Sometimes I'm wise. Sometimes I'm in your face. Sometimes I'm leaned back. Sometimes I trust. Sometimes I go for my dreams. You think you know me? You don't even know you. We get so in our head about people knowing us and not liking us. They don't even know themselves yet. So let them not like the one part of you they think they know. And you go on to being the best version of you. There is a part of you that is a genius in business. There is a part of you that is brilliant with money. There is a part of you that is a sex machine, a magnet. There is a part of you that is the kindest, most compassionate, loving friend. There is a wise soul, and there's a party animal. There's a vindictive little inside of you, and there is a kumbaya, magical, loving, ethereal being. There is a patient person and an impatient person. There is all of it. All those parts are there. So let's focus on the parts that you want to bring forward, and let's develop more of your identity. So the difference between the mush is, if I don't let myself sometimes be fully me in one area. So I'll give you an example. The way that I do social media for me is that I have to find it beautiful. It has to feel like a work of art. That's the one thing that's really important to me. I do not enjoy posting things on my social media that don't look like a work of art. But I also sometimes will look like an absolute disaster, as though I've just walked out of a garbage bin. And I don't really care about that. But I care about my Instagram looking a certain way. But I don't always need to be pristine. Sometimes I just woke up, fresh up, my hair's a mess, and I just want to sit by the fire and have a coffee, and I don't care. So if I need to say, oh, everyone on Instagram needs to see what I look like with morning breath, or else I'm not congruent, that's going to make me really confused on how to build a brand, because I don't want to make that post. And I don't feel like that's what I want to portray. But people say you've got to show everything. It's like, okay, but I'll show it. Can I show it in different ways? Can you come into my masterclass and then I'll show you my silliness? Can you come into my masterclass and then I'll show you my heart, my soul, my spirit? But can I keep my Instagram the way I want it to be? And then what if in my relationship, I am super playful and I'm funny, and I think like we laugh all the time in my relationship. Like Kevin and I laugh all the time. But in a business meeting, when I'm signing a contract at the bank, there is none of that. None. I am professional. I am clear. I am present. But then what if I think the person at the bank thinks I'm a little bit stuck up because they don't see my funny side? Maybe I should be funny there. This is where we mess it up. On my first date, I need to show that I'm funny and playful and sexy and no. Be who you want to be on a first date. Then be who you want to be on a second date. Then be who you want to be on a third date. When you look at how I built my company, this is actually the most beautiful thing, is I've given myself a place to be all the parts of me. I have my Femme Fatale identity where I can focus with you to really help you unlock that woman inside of you. Like we focus on this, like it's the one most important thing in the world. And then when we talk about exponential wealth and we start talking about money, I speak to you. I speak to the part of you that understands money because she's there. She exists. It's just you haven't wanted to look superficial and you haven't wanted to look all about the money, or you made a mistake when you were a little kid you never let yourself get over, or you're afraid you're going to model your parents. There's stuff in the way. But in that program, I speak to you like you are a financially coherent human being, and things start to change. And then I get to talk about social media without it being the superficial, all you care about is the likes. No, but let me talk to you about how to get them though. All you care about is the visibility. Definitely not. However, I have a program all about it. I get to be all in on the things I care about without having to say, I don't just care about this. I have a program called Exponential Wealth, but I don't just care about the money. I have a program about social media, but I don't just care about vanity metrics. I have a program about Femme Fatale, but I'm not only just in goddess mode, leaning back, hoping something's going to change my life. I'm all of it. And as I've let myself be that in my business, it's helped me also open up in my own life and categorize certain moments. There's days where it's the funny version of me that comes out. There's days where it's the sassy and the strong version, but there's never anything wrong. I'm the whole sauce. And there's days I like to add a little spice to the sauce. And there's days that I add a little sour to the sauce. There's days where I add a little something, something, little je ne sais quoi, a little something of such, because it's who I am, to be creative and to try things out. You get to try stuff in your life. And sometimes you'll keep it forever, and sometimes you'll let it go. You'll say, that was a great phase in my life. I had a phase. I wouldn't give it up. I learned a lot. I would not go back. That's also perfect. But at the end, there will be a story of you. And so many people ask me, when are you going to write a book? When I know the story. And they say, you have a great story. And I say, no, I have great stories. I don't have the story yet. I have stories. Little bits of my identity that don't even fit together, really. One day, it'll all come together. but I don't have a story. I have stories. That's actually a way you get to be if you want. Instead of trying to figure out what's your story, maybe you have 100 of them. Maybe they all take place in different places with different styles and different people and different parts of you. Maybe you actually have incredible stories. If you don't try to string them all together and see how it all worked out, maybe you'll actually find out you've got some great stuff there under your belt. So this is the most important thing for me when I speak with people, that when they leave having spoken with me, that they at least take away one thing. If you take away one thing from this masterclass, from this bonus session, if there's one thing that you can put into your life now and live just a little more unapologetic about who you are, a little more open to finding new versions of you and what you actually want to be, a little more in love with all that you are and willing to add more instead of trying to fix and change things, a little more respectful for what you've built, a little more open to pivot stuff instead of change stuff or fix stuff. Like, you've got tomatoes. Let's just add stuff and make a sauce. Like, let's just add. There's nothing wrong. Let's just keep adding and adding and adding and adding and adding, so that you can be this unique version of you that's a mix of all kinds of stuff, the greatest stuff, so that you can be the most delicious version of you. You don't actually need to change anything. You just get to add. When you think about it, when you look at a little kid that starts off in this life, you don't hope they'll change. You know they kind of will as they grow up, but what you know is they're going to add things. You know, at first they're a blank canvas. They look at you and that's all they know to do. They look at you and then they sleep and they poop and they eat stuff. And then eventually they add speaking and they add laughing and they add crawling and they add walking and they add a best friend and they add their favorite toy and they add excitement and they add parts. And sometimes they add a little sassy side and they add a little side that tries to get away with stuff and they add a little sneaky side, but then they also add what they learn at school and what they are passionate about and what their favorite characters are in their shows, and they become more and more and more of themselves. They don't change. You don't have to sit them down and say, okay, now you've got to change. If you're going to make it to high school now, you got to change. If you're going to become this, you got to change now. You just add. Then you add a partner, and then you add kids, and then you add, and then somewhere along the lines as a grown-up, we decide we've got to change for it to go well. At what point did that ever happen? Just keep adding, keep learning, keep testing, keep growing, keep going places, meet new people, go into conversations, make bold moves, take risks, fail, fall on your face, see how able you are to get back up one more time. Stop being so afraid of being wrong. Go play, go live, go learn, go be with people who light you up, go be in rooms that allow you to start fresh. Go put yourself in places where you can say, this is who I am, and no one can say anything about it because they only know you as the person you just claimed yourself to be. And then watch your life change. Not because you changed it, but because you added so much to it, it became a sauce instead of just tomatoes. It will change, but not because you changed it. It'll change because you allowed yourself to be someone change happens to. That's how it goes. So we have 2 alpha coins that we are going to be drawing. We have a Femme Fatale alpha coin, and the Femme Fatale alpha coin was a hidden alpha coin that was based on the post that I made, and I made a sneaky little thing where I shared it to my story with a coin in the corner. And so I did say those of you who are following me on social media might be able to see some sneaky games. And so this is one of the sneaky games. So we're going to start with Femme Fatale, and then we're going to pull the Alpha Femme Experience coin. So let me make sure I have this open, because I don't really get it when my team writes it in the chat sometimes. So I've got to just take my phone off Wi-Fi. And there is one little thing I want to share with you. So actually, I might want to set the context up for this before I even do it. Okay. So you know how I've said the best time to do something extraordinary is on the back end of a masterpiece? You heard me say that? The best time to do something extraordinary is on the back end of a masterpiece. What this basically means is momentum will bring you more energy to do the next thing, always. And so whenever in my life I don't do this, when I don't do best time to do something extraordinary is on the back end of the masterpiece, it's because I've consciously chosen rest. And so why this is so important for me to say is, for a lot of people, when I say that, they'll say, well, I hate that because that means I never get to rest. Or doesn't that always mean you're in masculine energy? Or doesn't that always mean you're always on the go? Intentionality is what's important. Intentional momentum or intentional rest. I prefer constant momentum because it actually takes less energy to be in momentum than it does to start fresh every time. And if you're wondering how that works, if you can imagine yourself on a bicycle, the difference between pedaling when you're already pedaling versus what it feels like to start the bike back up again after you stop the bike. So momentum actually feels like less energy than stop and go because you're actually utilizing the energy of the momentum. You're just kind of using what's already going. If you want to rest, though, rest is super valuable, but that's intentional. So there's a difference between you just stopped and rest. One actually is good for you. The other one is just like unplugging from the machine. So we want to make sure that we're staying connected all throughout. Momentum or rest, and intentionality every step of the way. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing this. So I tend to have a lot of momentum in my world because one of the codes I believe in, one of the things that I profoundly believe in is that I'm constantly growing. And so it's easier for me to use the energy of something that's already there and to say, this is probably going to fuel the next thing, than to wait and to say, let me hope something else comes through. Let me hope something else comes through. Let me just answer the Alpha Femme team. Here we are. So as I introduce this to you, I want to share with you that in my life, I have constantly learned new things and I haven't stopped often. But because I'm always in the energy of building and because it's always a slow and steady momentum, it doesn't feel like I've got to overdo it. I don't have to stress myself. I don't have to push because there's always something that's coming. And so during this masterclass, I've had a lot of inspiration and I've been reading your posts and I've been seeing a lot of people who are hungry for more. And I was honestly blown away by the amount of shares for us to be here in the first place. Like everything, I feel like your participation was above and beyond. But one thing that I really did see was that there was a financial block for a lot of people. And although I've been there and I understand that, I want to create an opportunity for momentum for you. And so this is not usually the time where I do this. These happen very rarely, but I got it, the next thing that I want to do. And I sat with my team and I thought about how I wanted to do it. And I thought of launching it, the thing. And then I realized that there was one way to do it that would really be absolutely extraordinary for all of us. It would be extraordinary for me. It would be extraordinary for you. It would be extraordinary for us. It would be a way I've never done it before this way on the back end of a masterclass. And it would be a way that could be really fun and exciting for you and probably the best way to get into something with me. And so I have decided to launch an invisible offer on the back end of this masterclass, and it is going to be insane. The invisible offers that I do in my work are ridiculous. They make no sense, and this one is better than any of the ones that I've done. And I highly considered selling it during, and then I said, you know what, we're going to do an invisible offer. So here's what you will know about this is it's going to happen mid-April. So you're going to have some space. It's not going to happen right away. I'm not going to launch this on my personal page yet. I'm actually keeping this for the people in Great Leap first. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to buy it before it even goes anywhere. And so it starts at $111. And then when I'm ready, I'll bring it to my personal page and it'll be at $222 when I launch it there. So if you're in Alpha Femme team, if you want to post the link for this, I'll also put it in the group for you. We'll email it to you, but I am very excited. And so you'll have some time to implement this masterclass. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then that's going to start at the end of April. The other thing that I want to tell you is that I'm deciding to keep the Great Leap group open a little longer than I usually do masterclasses. The one thing I will do though, is I'm going to limit posts, like people being able to post, but the threads will be open so that you can still watch the things, so that you can stay connected until the invisible offer begins. And so we can continue to be in the vibes. I will keep dropping pieces. I will keep dropping contemplations. I feel like this is a very healing program. Magic is happening. And so I want to build this community with you. I want more chances of, reading a lot of the stuff you've posted. I haven't had a chance to read everything. I want to know more about you because I feel like you know a lot about me. I'd love to know a little more about you. And so I want time to read more of the things and to be able to comment on what you've put out there. This will also give you a chance to read more of what people are putting out there. And it'll be a really great place for us to build this connection until the invisible offer, because a lot of the people that will be in the invisible offer will have been in Great Leap, and it'll feel like a place where we can move. Now, I want you to know this, it will be included for all the people who are in We Are Alpha Femme, the membership. It will be possible to use your 111 credit to buy this. So not included like it's free, but you can use, you know how I said every month you have $111? We've done it sometimes where you can't use that credit for an invisible offer. This time you can. So if you decided to do it, if you did WAF, or if you're about to, if you want to move into We Are Alpha Femme, you get to use your $111 credit to buy the invisible offer. So this is actually a really fun time also to do that. If you were on the fence about that, or if you did do that, your first credit you can use towards the invisible offer. It's also included for people who bought the AFE Next, or the bundle, the Great Leap bundle. Okay. Let's see if we're all set. Okay, Alpha Femme team, do you feel ready for, okay, wait, let me just see. I thought We Are Alpha Femme is 222. So We Are Alpha Femme is 222 a month, and every month you can use $111 of that amount to invest into another program. So if you bought We Are Alpha Femme for 222 this month and you have $111 credit, you get to just say, let's use that towards the invisible offer, which is amazing. If you're not seeing a link for the invisible offer, let me see. It's well hidden. I'll post it for us in the group when we're done also. But Kevin, can you hear me over there? Are we having an issue with the link, or are we good? It's coming. Hang on. Okay. So the reason you haven't seen it is because it hasn't come out yet. So this, just to give you some context on this invisible offer, so far the invisible offers we've done have been currency, cash, and Fempire. Fempire was the one I told you about when I got that concussion right before it happened. And then we've done 2 others. The amount of feedback we receive on the invisible offers are beyond. And the reason I do this is so I can give back. Because eventually these always climb up to a price point that's equivalent to a program. So to be able to come in first is always amazing. And I wanted you to be the first people to have a chance to do this, because you really did give so much time and energy and connection. Like, you were in the masterclass, then you did everything you needed to do in order to be here in the group. Like, I wanted to celebrate this with you before anybody else. Oh yeah, and Snowball. Snowball was one of those. Oh gosh, that one was crazy. Snowball was one of my favorite. Okay, so then what do we want to do? Do we want to do the draw first, or do we want to figure out the link? Let me see what is going on. I'll message Vanessa. Hello, you're on speaker in the Great Leap. Do you mind just letting me know what I should do first? Do we want to do a draw, or do we want to post the link? What's better first? Post link. Okay, how long? Oh, you posted the link. It just dropped. Okay, thank you. Okay, the link has been posted. So that was step 1. It just went up. Where is it? Right here. Yay. Okay, so I commented on it as well. There we go. And so this is fun because you're going to get a graphic, and the shareable graphic for this is so fun. All it says is, all I know is that I'm in, because you don't know what it is because it's invisible. And it's like one of those bringbacks to me being the invisible coat. This is my favorite thing. I love it so much. But here's what I want you to know. The reason I built this invisible offer thing was a trust fall experience to show my clients that one of the programs I was teaching at the time was to show the proof of concept that when you build a powerful identity and a powerful brand, people trust in what you bring forward so much that they will invest because they know they can expect it to be good. And this is where a lot of the people, you'll go watch a movie just because one of your favorite actors is in it, or you'll go watch a movie because your favorite director is directing it, or you'll go to eat at a restaurant because it's a Michelin star chef that created it, or there's something about the trust factor of building your identity that pays off far beyond. Some people say, I'm not good at writing sales pages. I'm not good at experiencing or explaining what I do. And I say, you know what? You don't even need to if you know how to build a solid identity and you know how to really deliver every time. Eventually, yay! Eventually, you don't need to worry about that because who you are is what sells. And so I put out this invisible offer and it went crazy. So for those of you who want to use your credit, I'm gonna put a post in the group to show you exactly how to do that. You'll be able to comment on the post directly, so it'll be easier, and the Alpha Femme team will give you the access. And obviously, if everybody's trying to pay for it at once, it could be like a traffic jam. So don't worry about it. I'll email you the link and I'll put it in the group as well. But this is also one of those things to show you that in life, so many people can say yes at the same time. Let this be a piece of evidence for you when you're wondering, one person at a time, one person at a time, one person at a time. Sometimes your biggest issue is there's a traffic jam. Too many people want to say yes at the same time. This is a problem I never thought I would have in my life. It's a beautiful problem. So there isn't an expiration date on it. However, the price is going to change. And this is what happens with invisible offers. I never say when, I just get the feeling, and that's when the price goes up. So now for some people, the link is saying it's in the field of possibility. It could just be there's too many comments on it, but I'll post it in the group as well. We'll post it in all the places. And it's not going to expire in the next 5 minutes, so you're going to be fine. Okay, so Alpha Femme team, we're ready for the draw. Femme Fatale, whenever you're ready. So it's going to be mid-April. The live component is going to start mid-April. Oh my gosh, Amanda's registered. This is so exciting. My phone right now is like, okay. I think you need to, Alpha team, can you send it to me privately as well? Because I don't think I'll see it. There's too many comments happening. Okay, so the Femme Fatale one for the sneaky offer, the person who saw it on my Instagram was Sabrina COINTET. Sabrina COINTET, you win the Femme Fatale program. I'm so excited. We did the opening call yesterday. Our first call is tomorrow. And so you're right on time. And I'm so excited. Congratulations. Okay. And now we are going to draw the Alpha coin for AFE. So the winner of AFE is, drum roll, Charmaine Mitchell. Okay, but this is crazy because this is someone who has already done AFE and not contemplated this happening. Okay. Charmaine Mitchell, you will get AFE next because that's the only thing that makes sense. We've already done so much work together. I want to pull another one. For a chance at someone that's never done it as well. I want to try another. Oh my God, Charmaine Mitchell. Charmaine, you're in AFE next. Whether you like it or not, you're coming back. This is awesome. Okay. So, Alpha Team, can you pull somebody else? Drum roll. Drum roll. Jessica Fabrizi. Jessica Fabrizi, you win the AFE. This is awesome. Okay, this person has not done AFE. I know that because I know she hasn't. So now we've got one AFE next and one AFE. All the abundance galore today. Oh my gosh, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed the bonus session. I hope you had a great time with me today. I look forward to seeing those of you that are moving into the invisible offer with me. We're going to have the time of our lives. I'm very excited about this program with you. It's going to be amazing. And I know for some of you, you were waiting, you were on the fence to see what would happen with this AFE, whether I would pick you or whether you have to make this move on your own. But I just want you to know that there is a version of you out there that knows how to do this, that has the courage to make the moves that you want to make, that's willing to take the risks and the risks pay off. That story exists. You've just got to be willing to use the part of you that's brave, even though the part of you that's terrified exists. You've got to be willing to make the move with the part of you that feels like, I can do this, instead of the one that's like, no, we can't do this. Like, there's a part of you that can do this. There's a part of you that can and that will. There's a part of you that does this. And so it's just tapping into that piece of your identity, the bold one, the crazy one, the one that doesn't take no for an answer, the one that believes in herself, the one that makes the odds happen in her favor, the one that just does it. Like, there's a part of you that is that. And it doesn't mean that all the parts that are scared and worried and don't know don't exist. Those parts also exist. It's just those aren't the ones that make that decision. It's the only thing. So the links will be available in the group. Also, I'll email them to you. Just whatever is right for you. I hope you make a move. I hope I have had the power in this masterclass to help you making a move that moves your life forward. Everything I am was because of every move I made. Nothing would have happened if I hadn't have moved. And sometimes I won and sometimes I fell on my butt. And I sometimes learned more from the times I fell on my butt. So just trust yourself. You're a badass, you're a warrior, you're a goddess, you're a leader, you're a queen, you're everything. Like, you're everything. And sometimes scary and scared and all the things, but that doesn't take away all the good and the great and the power that you are. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate you more than you know, and I shall see you on the internet.
Let the games begin.